You can stay, but this part of the house is for real family." My stepmother said it with a smile, like she was offering directions to the restroom. She pointed toward the back porch, past the sliding glass door, where a single plastic lawn chair sat between the recycling bin and the garden hose. Everyone at the dining table heard her. My father, my stepbrother, my stepsister, my 2 aunts on her side. Not one of them flinched. I stood there holding a $200 bottle of scotch I'd spent an hour picking out for my dad's retirement party, his favorite brand. I knew because I'd memorized it when I was 9. Back when he still let me sit on his lap while he watched football and sipped from a heavy glass. But that was before her. Before everything rearranged. I nodded, set the bottle on the counter, walked to the back porch, and sat down in that plastic chair. Through the window, I watched them clink glasses under the chandelier she'd picked out when she redecorated the house I grew up in. My old bedroom was now a yoga studio. My name had been taken off the mailbox years ago. I sat there for 2 hours. Nobody came outside. Not once. But when the caterer handed over the bill, suddenly everyone remembered I existed. That night, I didn't just leave the house. I left the story they'd written for me. And I never looked back. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Claire, and for the first 12 years of my life, I was my dad's entire world. He was a firefighter in a small town outside of Portland, Oregon. Big hands, soft voice. The kind of man who cried at animated movies and wasn't ashamed of it. My mom passed when I was 4. Brain aneurysm. No warning, no goodbye. Just a Tuesday that split our lives into before and after. After that, it was just me and him. He'd braid my hair before school, badly, but he tried. He packed my lunches with little notes. "You're braver than you think, kiddo." We had pancake Sundays and movie Fridays, and this unspoken agreement that we were a team, always. I didn't need anyone else because I had him, and he had me. Then, when I was 12, he met Diane. Diane was polished. Blonde highlights, white teeth, a laugh that carried across any room like she wanted everyone to hear it. She had 2 kids from a previous marriage. Marcus, who was 14, and Tessa, who was 10. Within 6 months, Diane had moved in. Within a year, they were married. And within 2 years, I became invisible. It didn't happen overnight. It was slow, like watching paint fade in the sun. First, it was the little things. My dad started missing pancake Sundays because Diane planned family brunches at restaurants where Marcus and Tessa ordered whatever they wanted, and I was told to pick something reasonable. Then movie Fridays disappeared because Diane thought it was a little codependent for a father and teenage daughter to spend every Friday night together. She suggested I find friends my own age. She said it sweetly. She always said things sweetly. That was her talent, wrapping cruelty in a voice that sounded like concern. My dad didn't push back. Not once. He'd just look at me with these tired eyes and shrug, as if to say, "Let's just keep the peace." But keeping the peace meant losing me, piece by piece. Marcus got a car for his 16th birthday. Tessa got a room makeover with a canopy bed and fairy lights. I got hand-me-down textbooks and a reminder to be grateful for what you have. When I made honor roll, Diane said, "That's nice, Claire," without looking up from her phone. When Marcus got a C+ average and made junior varsity baseball, she threw a backyard party. I remember the moment I knew I'd lost my father completely. I was 15. I'd entered a statewide essay contest on the topic of resilience. Wrote about losing my mom, about learning to cook dinner at age 9 so my dad wouldn't have to after a 2-4-hour shift. I won first place. The school called him to tell him. That night at dinner, I waited for him to say something. Anything. He didn't. So I brought it up myself. "Dad, did the school call you today?" He looked confused for a second. Then Diane cut in. "Oh, right, that writing thing. Good for you, sweetie. Marcus, tell your father about the batting cage." And just like that, the conversation moved on. My essay about resilience got less airtime than a batting cage. My dad never brought it up again. That was the night I stopped waiting. I didn't slam doors or scream or cry in front of them. I just went quiet. I started studying harder, not for praise, but for escape. Every A was a step closer to the door. Every scholarship application was a plane ticket out. I got a part-time job at 16, cashiering at a hardware store. Saved every penny. Diane noticed and started asking me to chip in for groceries, since I was earning now. My dad let her. I handed over $40 a week from my $70 paycheck and ate less so the math would work. I left the day after high school graduation. My dad hugged me at the ceremony. Loose, brief. Diane took photos of Marcus and Tessa with their friends. Nobody took a photo of me. I didn't ask. I drove to campus the next morning with everything I owned in the backseat of a used Honda Civic I'd bought with 3 years of hardware store savings. No one waved from the porch. No one called to see if I arrived safely. College was survival, dressed up as ambition. I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3. Barista at 5 a.m., library assistant until class, tutoring at night. I lived on ramen and peanut butter sandwiches. My roommate thought I was disciplined. I was just broke. But I showed up to every class. Turned in every paper early. Graduated summa cum laude with a degree in finance, and not a single person from my family in the audience. I clapped for myself when they called my name. Quietly, under my breath. It was enough. After graduation, I moved to Denver. Got an entry-level job at a commercial real estate firm. The hours were brutal. 12, sometimes 14-hour days. But I loved it because every deal I closed was proof that Diane was wrong. That I wasn't reasonable. That I wasn't the girl who sat at the kids' table while the real family celebrated. Over the next 6 years, I climbed. Junior analyst to senior analyst to associate. Then I took a risk. I left the firm and started my own consulting company, specializing in undervalued commercial properties in mid-sized cities. It was terrifying. I maxed out a credit card, slept on an air mattress in my office for 4 months, and ate gas station sandwiches for dinner. But the first deal landed. Then the second. Then a referral chain that didn't stop. By 29, my company had 12 employees and a client list I was genuinely proud of. I wasn't rich. Not yet. But I was stable in a way that felt like wealth because I had built every inch of it myself. Through all of it, I kept reaching out to my dad. Birthday calls that went to voicemail. Christmas cards with no return address because Diane had moved them to a new house and never told me. I found out about the move from my dad's cousin's Facebook post. I texted my dad congratulations. He replied 3 days later with a thumbs up emoji. But still, I called. Every Father's Day, every Thanksgiving, I'd leave a message. Hey Dad, it's Claire. Just thinking about you. Hope you're doing well. Call me back whenever. He never did. Diane always answered his phone. Oh, he's busy right now, Claire. I'll let him know. She never let him know. I don't know why I kept trying. Maybe it was that 9-year-old girl still living inside me. The one who made her dad coffee in the mornings and thought love was permanent. Maybe I just couldn't accept that a man who once wrote "You're braver than you think" in my lunchbox could completely forget me. But he did. Or rather, he let someone else make him forget. So, when the invitation came for his retirement party, I was shocked. A text from Marcus. Of all people, Dad's retiring, party at the house Saturday. You should come. Diane's planning it. I stared at that text for 20 minutes. My chest tightened. I knew how it would go. I knew I'd be sidelined, tolerated at best. But some stubborn part of me thought maybe this time, maybe after all these years, they'd see me, really see me. I flew from Denver to Portland, rented a car, bought that bottle of scotch, wore a navy blue dress I'd picked out carefully, professional but warm, the kind of outfit that said, I'm doing well without shouting it. I drove up to the house I used to live in but wouldn't recognize anymore, with its new siding and landscaped yard and a welcome mat that said the Petersons, Diane's last name, not mine. I walked in, and nobody greeted me at the door. The dining room was set beautifully. Long table, white tablecloth, candles, real silverware, 12 seats. Every one of them had a name card. I scanned them quickly. Marcus, Tessa, Aunt Viv, Aunt Gloria, Diane's friend, Patty, her neighbor, Linda, Diane's mother, Ruth, my father, obviously. My name was not on any of them. I stood there, bottle in hand, smile frozen. When Diane appeared from the kitchen, that's when she said it. Cheerful, casual, like she was pointing out where to hang a coat. You can stay, but this part of the house is for real family. And she gestured toward the back porch. I could have made a scene. I could have confronted her in front of everyone. I could have turned to my father, who was sitting 3 feet away pouring wine, and demanded he choose me for once in his life. But I looked at him, and he didn't look back. He poured the wine. He passed the glass to Diane's mother. He adjusted his napkin. Like I wasn't there. Like I had never been there. So I set the scotch on the counter, walked outside, sat in the plastic chair. Through the glass door, I watched the meat. Diane had ordered from a high-end caterer. Filet mignon, garlic mashed potatoes, lobster tails. A 3-tier cake with happy retirement, Dave written in gold frosting. They laughed. Clinked glasses. My dad gave a speech about the people who matter most. He looked around the table. His eyes passed right over the glass door where I sat. He didn't pause. I stayed for 2 hours. Not because I was weak, but because I needed to see it clearly. No more excuses. No more. Maybe he's just busy, or maybe Diane intercepted the message. He saw me walk in. He watched me walk to the porch. He chose not to follow. At some point, Marcus came outside. Not to check on me. He needed the recycling bin. He glanced at me and said, "Oh, you're still here?" Then he grabbed the bin and went back inside. I didn't cry. I was done crying for people who had stopped counting me years ago. I sat there and let the truth settle into my bones like cold air. This was never going to change. They were never going to change. And I was done changing myself to fit a space that was never meant for me. Then the back door opened again. This time it was Diane. But her smile was different now. Tighter. Less performative. She had the caterer's invoice in her hand. "Claire, honey, so the total came to $6,800. We figured since you're doing so well, and you didn't really contribute to the planning, the least you could do is cover the catering. Think of it as your gift to your father." She held out the invoice like she was handing me a parking ticket. Behind her, through the glass, I saw my father watching. He knew. He was waiting to see if I'd do it. $6,800. For filet mignon I didn't eat. Lobster I didn't taste. Cake I wasn't offered. Wine I didn't drink. At a party where my name wasn't on a single place card. In a house where my bedroom had been turned into a yoga studio. For a family that put me on the porch next to the recycling bin. Something shifted in me. Not anger, something quieter. Something final. I stood up from that plastic chair, smoothed my dress. Looked Diane directly in the eyes and smiled. "I wasn't invited to the dinner, Diane, remember? This part of the house is for real family, that's what you said." Her mouth opened slightly. She hadn't expected that. And real family pays for their own celebrations. I picked up my purse from the ground next to the chair. "Thank you for making it clear. You've actually done me a favor." I walked past her, through the dining room. The table went quiet, 12 people staring at me. My father with his wine glass halfway to his lips, Marcus mid-bite. Tessa scrolling her phone, but looking up now, surprised. "Claire?" "Don't be dramatic," Diane said behind me, her sweet voice cracking just slightly. I stopped at the front door. Turned around one last time. Looked at my father. Not with anger, not with pleading. Just clarity. "I've spent 20 years trying to earn a seat at this table, Dad. But you never saved one for me. So, I'm done asking." He opened his mouth. For 1 second, 1 fraction of a heartbeat. I thought he might say something. Might stand up. Might finally, after everything, choose me. He closed his mouth and looked down at his plate. I nodded. Walked out. Closed the door softly behind me. No slam, no storm. Just a quiet, clean exit. The rental car smelled like pine air freshener. I sat in the driver's seat for a minute, hands on the wheel, breathing. Not crying. Just breathing. Then I started the engine and drove to the airport hotel. Ordered room service, a burger and a glass of red wine. Ate in bed watching a cooking show, and for the first time in years, dinner didn't hurt. 2 weeks later, I was back in Denver. Sitting in a glass-walled conference room on the 14th floor of a downtown office building. Across from me sat the CEO of a regional development firm and his legal team. My legal team sat beside me. 6 months of negotiation had led to this moment. My company was being brought on as the exclusive consulting partner for a $40 million mixed-use development project. The biggest contract of my career. The kind of deal that doesn't just change your revenue, it changes your trajectory. My phone buzzed in my bag. Then again. Then 3 more times. I didn't look. I signed the contract, shook hands, smiled for the photo they wanted for their newsletter. My COO, Priya, squeezed my arm afterward and whispered, "You just changed everything, boss." In the elevator going down, I finally checked my phone. 5 missed calls. 2 from Marcus. 1 from Tessa. 2 from a number I hadn't seen in years, but recognized instantly. My father's landline. And a text from Marcus. "The caterer is threatening to send the bill to collections. Nobody here can cover it. Diane's credit card got declined. Can you call Dad back?" I read it twice. Then I put my phone in my bag and walked out into the Colorado sunshine. They didn't call because they missed me. They called because the bill came due and the real family couldn't pay for their own party. The irony was so sharp it almost made me laugh. Over the next few days, the messages kept coming, each one more urgent than the last. "Diane, Claire, this is getting serious. Your father is stressed. The least you can do is help. Tessa. Hey, I know things are weird, but can you just call Dad? He's really upset. Marcus. This is messed up. You came to the party and didn't even offer to help?" Classic Claire. And then, finally, a voicemail from my father. The first time he'd called me in over 3 years. His voice was tired, older than I remembered. "Claire, it's Dad. Listen, I know things haven't been. I know we haven't been close. But I could really use your help right now. Diane's going through some financial stuff, and the party cost more than we expected. Can you call me back, kiddo?" Kiddo. He called me kiddo. The word hit me like a brick to the chest. Not because it softened me, but because it proved exactly what I already knew. He only reached for me when he needed something. The word wasn't love. It was leverage. I didn't call back. Instead, I did something I'd been planning for months. Something that had nothing to do with them and everything to do with me. I hosted a dinner, a real one. I rented the private dining room at a restaurant downtown. Nothing flashy, just elegant. Exposed brick, warm lighting, a jazz trio in the corner. I invited 22 people. My COO Priya, who believed in my company when it was just a business plan on a napkin. My college roommate Becca, who once lent me her last $40 so I could buy interview clothes. My mentor, Dr. Hale, a retired finance professor who spent 3 years answering my emails and reviewing my proposals for free. My assistant Jada, who held the office together during the months I couldn't pay her on time and never once complained. My neighbor, Mr. Kim, who brought me soup when I had the flu last winter and didn't know anyone else in the building. 22 people. 22 seats. Every single one of them had a name card. Handwritten. I placed each one myself. When they arrived, I watched them find their names. Watched their faces soften with surprise, then warmth. Some of them hadn't been to a dinner like this before. Some of them didn't know each other. But they all knew me, the real me. Not the ghost on the porch. Not the girl who wasn't enough. The woman who built something and remembered every person who helped her along the way. Halfway through dinner, Priya leaned over. "Did your family ever respond?" I sipped my wine. They did. They wanted money. "What did you say?" "Nothing." That was the answer. She nodded slowly. "Good." After dessert, I stood up and tapped my glass. "I want to say something," I started. The room quieted. A few weeks ago, I sat in a plastic chair on a back porch, next to a recycling bin, while the people who were supposed to be my family celebrated without me. There were 12 seats at that table. None of them had my name. I paused, looked around the room. Tonight, there are 22 seats at this table, and every single one has someone's name on it. Not because I'm trying to prove anything, but because I finally understand something I spent 20 years getting wrong. I took a breath. Family isn't blood. It isn't obligation. It isn't guilt. Family is who shows up, who stays, who makes space for you at the table. Not because they have to, but because they want to. You are all my family, and I am so grateful that you chose me, because I know what it feels like when people don't. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Becca started clapping. Then Dr. Hale. Then everyone. Not a standing ovation. Just warm, genuine applause. The kind that doesn't perform. The kind that means it. I sat back down. Jada handed me a tissue. I laughed and dabbed my eyes. I'm fine, I said. I know you are, she said. That's why I'm crying. Later that night, after the guests had gone and the restaurant was quiet, I sat alone at the table for a few minutes. The candles were low. The name cards were still in their places. I picked up the one at the head of the table. It said Claire. I held it for a moment. Then I slipped it into my purse. Not as a trophy, not as proof, just as a reminder that I had built something no one could take from me. Not Diane, not Marcus, not Tessa, not even my father, who chose silence over his own daughter for 20 years. I walked to my car. The Denver night was cold and clear. Stars punched through the sky like tiny promises. I started the engine and sat there, heat warming my hands, and for the first time in as long as I could remember, I didn't feel the need to call anyone, to prove anything, to send a card or leave a voicemail or try one more time. I was done reaching for people who kept their hands in their pockets. 3 months later, I got one more message. This time from Tessa, surprisingly long, surprisingly honest. Claire, I know we were never close, and I know a lot of that was because of my mom. I've been thinking about it a lot lately. I saw your company got featured in a business magazine. I showed it to your dad. He stared at it for a long time. He didn't say anything, but I think he's starting to realize what he lost. I'm not asking you to forgive anyone. I just wanted you to know that somebody in this family finally sees it. I'm sorry. For all of it. I read it 3 times. Then I set my phone down on the kitchen counter and poured myself a cup of coffee. I didn't reply. Not out of anger. Not out of revenge. But because some doors, once you walk through them, are meant to stay behind you. Forgiveness is one thing. Going back is another. My father chose his peace a long time ago. It just took me 20 years to choose mine. I looked out my apartment window at the mountains in the distance, snow-capped and steady. They didn't move for anyone. They didn't apologize for being tall. They just stood there, solid and certain. And for the first time, I understood exactly how that felt. Because I wasn't the girl on the porch anymore. I wasn't the name missing from the mailbox. I wasn't the empty chair at the table or the voicemail that never got returned. I was Claire. I was enough. And the only table that mattered was the one I built with my own 2 hands. Some people spend their whole lives waiting for a seat. I stopped waiting and built the entire room. And if you're watching this, sitting in your own version of that plastic chair, wondering if it'll ever change, let me tell you something my dad should have said a long time ago. You're braver than you think. So stop waiting for them to see it. See it yourself. Stand up, walk out, and go build something they can't ignore. Because the moment you stop begging for a place at someone else's table is the moment your real life begins. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe to Revenge with Nora. I'll see you in the next one.